Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to what's going to be a car video. There's going to be all sorts of stuff on the channel, and if you want to learn a little bit more about that, me and my good friend Mark made a video explaining what the channel is all about. Anyway, moving forward, there's going to be a ton of car content coming up, so I'm going to make this video to provide a little bit of context to it all. And we're going to talk about my car history, so we can get to know what sort of stuff I'm into and what you can then expect on the channel. So I'm into Japanese cars. I saw Fast and Furious way too young.
Let's go for a little ride.
That got me into the Japanese stuff. Specifically, before that, I was already into cars. I remember seeing a neighbor who had an MR2, and I just thought it was the coolest looking thing ever. So I'm 28 now. I passed my test when I was 19 because I had motorbikes before. My first car was a Mark 1 UK spec Mazda MX-5 Molo edition. And if you're from the UK, you might be thinking, wow, wasn't insurance crazy for that as a first car? And I found somewhat of like a weird loophole with that one. So I decided that I'd wanted an MX-5 because they were cheap, and I just thought they looked really cool. They were rear-wheel drive. I was like, that's a proper car, that's what I want. So in my head, the cheapest one to insure, and therefore the most accessible one as a 19-year-old or as a new driver, would be the UK spec detuned 90 horsepower ones. I was getting insurance quotes and they were coming back pretty high still. And then somewhat locally, I was just looking on eBay at MX-5s, and Merlot came up. And I was like, oh, there's no way I'd be able to insure this. It's got a bigger engine than the 1.6 90 horsepower one. But I'll get some quotes anyway, because this car's cheap and it's local. And they were literally like half what I had been getting for 90 horsepower UK spec ones. Yeah, so it must be because of crash statistics in reference to that particular special edition model. I don't know, but it was cheaper, which blew my mind. So I was like, this is brilliant. This means we can go and get it. So I bid for it. I think I won it for either 900 quid or 1100 quid. Either way, it was quite cheap. Advert, exactly what you want to see on an MX-5 advert. It said, no rust, good condition. And I was like, okay, cool.
Always lying to me. Why? You lying so much. Why? You making it hard for me.
Being younger and none the wiser, I didn't notice that the sills had very recently had a dodgy patch and a load of filler work. Didn't notice that. But other than that, to be fair, it was quite a tidy car. I was so unbelievably excited about this car, and I ended up keeping it for about 2 years. And I'd done quite a lot to it and was fairly misguided along the way. A lot of the mods I did actually made the car worse, but I learned a lot along the way and I absolutely loved that car. It was pretty cool in the end. It had an exhaust, coilovers, wheels, had some Sparco seats, like a harness and stuff, so I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Every time I drove it, I felt like I was in Initial D. But it was a good car. I loved it so much, and that really made me double down with my interest in Japanese stuff, and in particular JDM stuff. So I started to get a little bit sick of the lack of practicality with the MX-5, and I could also see that it was going to become quite an expensive car to keep on the road if I wanted it to be clean and tidy. It needed some welding doing and stuff. In hindsight, I should have kept it. I didn't, but we live and we learn. So I decided that I wanted a hatchback, but I wanted something Japanese and I wanted it to be, in my eyes, interesting. And after tons of research, I stumbled upon the Corolla T-Sport with the 2ZZ engine. I was like, oh, this is cool. They're rare. You don't see many of them around. Because really, I think I wanted an EP3, but I just wanted something a little bit different. Because you see EP3s all the time. Well, you used to anyway, not so much anymore. So I found one locally, found a red one, and it had the worst lack appeal ever. It was a pre-facelift as well, so it's particularly ugly. And I went and picked that one up, and that was cheap too. I think I paid $1,000 for that red one. Other than the horrific paint, it was in fairly good condition. You could tell that the pictures were taken when the paint was wet, so it didn't look as bad, and I got there and it looked way worse. But it was kind of a weird combination, really, especially the pre-facelift Corolla T-Sport. The handling prowess of the pre-facelift Corollas was just rubbish. It was such a boat. It felt like a people carrier, and it just felt heavy and it's very wallowy. Made some slight improvements to that over time by lowering it and stuff. I did a bunch of visual mods as well. Really what I should have done is bought a facelift, but I didn't. But I ended up facelifting that with the headlights, bumper, side skirts. I did the facelift interior as well, which I got locally for like 100 quid. Did quite a lot of work to that car in the end. And overall, it was brilliant. It's like a weird kind of, imagine the combination between like a hot hatch and like a muscle car. That's what it felt like. It felt like it had too much engine, which is funny. It made it a laugh to drive, and it was super practical, and oh my God, was it comfortable. Such a comfortable car. And the fate of that car was I was on a road trip with my friends, and we blew the head gasket in the Lake District. So I fixed it. By that point, I was kind of sick of it. Had rotor slipstreams on it. It kind of looked cool for a while, but it was a good car. But I decided I wanted something different. So off the Corolla went. Don't know how I stumbled upon it. It must have been on forums and stuff, but I started seeing what I thought to be, because I'd never seen one before, like an early Evo pickup truck. I saw all these pictures. I think they're from Malaysia. So I did my research, figured out what it was. It was in fact a Proton Jumbuck, which is a pickup truck made by Proton in Malaysia, I think. It's actually very closely based on a Mitsubishi Lancer, so it's got like a Mitsubishi Lancer engine and floor pan for the front half, and then the rear half is like leaf springs and stuff. I decided that I wanted one because I wanted to build an Evo pickup truck, because in my head I'd never seen anything so cool. It kind of combined a lot of my hobbies. I was like, oh, this would be super like JDM looking and cool, but also practical. I can carry my mountain bikes and stuff. So I had that. Ended up being quite rusty. Had my friend Pete, shout out Pete from Griffin Classics, get the sills sorted on that. And I had actually sourced an Evo 3 bonnet and wings. I was just trying to source a front bumper, but it was all really expensive and extremely hard to find. It was so hard to find. I think the bonnet alone was like 500 quid. It was, yeah, ridiculous. So I was kind of waiting to get the project going, and then my life changed. You know, for it to actually be cool, it needed an engine swap and stuff, and it was too much project for me at the time. So what did I do? You can see a common theme here. I stuck to what I knew. I got another Corolla, but this time it was a pretty clean black facelift, and this was a nice car. It was quite high mileage. I think it had like close to 150,000 on it when I got it. You could feel the refinements of the facelift in that car. The facelifts have better anti-roll bars and a few other bits, and they sit a little bit lower from factory. This one had teen coilovers on it, which I didn't fit, the previous owner did. So compared to a pre-facelift, it handled a lot better. It still didn't handle very well. And I didn't really do a lot to that car. I put a roof rack on it, and it came with some OZ Superleggeras, which I'm not a fan of, so I put standard wheels back on it, and I think that improved the looks a ton. Also improved the ride quality a whole bunch. When you have a car like that, you rev the nuts off it all the time. My partner Beth absolutely loved that car because, again, it was very comfortable, and the 2ZZ is just such an electric engine. Absolutely screams to, like, I can't remember exactly what it revs to, it's like 8,250 or something, the limiter is up. So it absolutely screams a proper, like, the engine feel, those 2ZZs, they feel very motorsport inspired, but the chassis, absolutely not. I had it for just over a year, I think, and I'd sourced a couple of cool bits for it. I sourced some Run-X rear lights. What came up next was a massive detour. I decided to live in a van. So off the Corolla went, and I got a van for a while. That was a Nissan MV200. We won't get into that now because it's not really relevant, but that was a good little van. So my next car after that was another MX-5. So I'd regretted selling my first one chronically because it was just post-COVID. Anything JDM had, or JDM adjacent, had massive price hikes at this kind of time. And I was thinking at the time, I was panicking a bit because I'd seen everything go up in value so much. I was like, oh, I really want another Mark 1, but I don't want to pay over the odds for it. So I was half window shopping for one, and a very poorly advertised Unos Roadster came up locally, and it was cheap. It was like 1,500 quid, and the description didn't really say much. It was a very poorly advertised car, but I was like, this is cheap. We need to go and look at this. Me and my good friend Cal shot down about half an hour away from where we were to check it out. We get there and it's pretty fucked. It's running on like 3 cylinders. It becomes immediately obvious that the car has gotten really, really hot. It had like melted HT leads. There was like rusty water everywhere. And it was quite rusty as well. Needed a sill, needed a quarter panel as well, which I still haven't done. But it had some really cool bits on it. So we noticed it had some Meister coilovers on it. It had some Willwood front brakes, which are quite an expensive upgrade, and a few other bits and bobs. And I was thinking, this could be a really good deal if we could get it for the right money, because worst case scenario, we can just break it for parts and get our money back. So I offered him $1,000 and he took it. We drove it back, which was awesome because we arrived the next day after viewing it, and we brought some HT leads, some spark plugs, tools, a few other bits and bobs. Oh, and he thought the clutch had gone, but what it turned out to be was actually the clutch slave cylinder, which was awesome. So I had the same problem in my first Mark 1. So when he said the clutch was gone, I was like, right, let me test this. And with a pump, it came back up. So I was like, sick, it's fine. So we came back with tools and parts, got it going, limped it back, which was pretty awesome because we had to blow loads of like melted HT lead out of the spark plug ports and all sorts. But me and Cal got it going, which felt pretty heroic at the time. Drove it back, and then I did a bunch of work to it, did the water pump, valve cover gasket, loads of like all the related maintenance to that, a good engine service. I did a clutch master and slave, and then my friend Ben welded it up. We put a full new sill in it, and he fabricated an inner sill as well. Made a nice tidy job of that, so he had it for a while. And then I had it on the road up until recently, and now it's off the road, waiting for a few bits and bobs doing to it. So I love that car, and I'm not going to make the mistake of selling this one. And that kind of leads me into what the content's going to be coming up. So we're going to have a focus on the MX-5 because it is very near and dear to my heart, and it's been waiting to have some work done to it for a while now. So we're going to bring it back to a former glory. We're going to get out and have a good time with it. I'm going to loads of shows this year, mainly JDM stuff, but to be honest, I'm kind of down for whatever. I just love the scene. I love checking it out. So overall, not that many cars, but a fairly common theme. I have bought the same kind of car twice, so I seem to make the mistake of selling. I think I'll just not sell cars. I think that's the way to go. Right now we're in what is actually my partner's Peugeot 107. There's kind of an interesting story behind this, and there will be a video coming up. It was parked and left dormant for 10 years, and I got it back on the road, back to its former glory. It's really low mileage. It's only on like 50-something thousand now. It was on 40-something. It's my daily. I love this car. It may seem somewhat boring, but I'm actually very fond of this car. It's fantastic. So stay tuned if you want to see that. So that kind of wraps it up. Thank you for listening to me yap about my car history. If you want to see what the channel is all about, you should check out the launch video that we did. The link to that video will be in the description. And if you want to see some automotive content moving forward, you should subscribe because we're going to be leaning into it quite a lot. I'm quite excited. But we've got motorbikes, we've got van builds, we've got all sorts. Thank you to anyone who tuned in. I appreciate every last one of you. Check out the links down below. We've got all sorts. We've got a shop. We've got other social medias if you want to see some behind the scenes stuff. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.